Hey guys, Danny here. I have a very interesting product to share with you today. But before we start, this product was sent to me for review. And as always, if you want to pick it up, there'll be a link down in the description for you. So you will have noticed there is a bit of a craze with foldable smartphones going on at the moment. They are generally in their early stages, so they're not great in design overall, and they do have some issues. I then came across this smartphone online. Now, while it's not completely new, it has been out for a while. It has received some updates to some of the previous reviews that I've seen on YouTube, and I thought it might be worth checking out just to see if it's any good, because its price tag isn't too hefty considering it does have two screens, which is something you don't normally see in a lot of phones. So I wanted to check it out and see how well it performs. On the front we have a 6.2-inch screen, whereas on the back we have a smaller 5.1-inch screen. We also have a dual rear camera setup with a 16 and 24 megapixel camera and an impressive 8 gigabytes of RAM. This version I'm using here has 128 gigs of internal storage, also a Snapdragon 845 processor and a Adreno 630 GPU, so some rather impressive specs. Do note there are several different models with some slightly different specs, so be sure to check that out in the link below. Let's talk about the most obvious feature, and that is the rear screen. Now, the most obvious feature that you can use this for is the rear facing camera, as you don't have a front facing pop-up camera or just a front facing camera at all. So you use the back screen to take your selfies, and this is quite a useful feature for this back panel, but it can be used as a full screen. You can even play games on the rear screen, which doesn't entirely make sense. You can even use the back screen as a touch controller and reach around with your fingers to control your games. This is not something I would personally use, but the option's there if you want to do that. There are a few different ways you can switch between the back or the front panel, and the default way is by holding the fingerprint sensors which are on each side of the phone. I did forget to mention this earlier. You have two fingerprint sensors on each side of the phone you can use. You squeeze those down and then turn around the phone, and the sensor picks this up and it switches the panel, and it actually does work quite well. You can remap this to another button or even have a dedicated on-screen button which automatically hides itself. You can reposition it to different sides of the screen also. I do much prefer this option, as I did find the fingerprint sensors on the side a little bit finicky to hold while turning the phone. But there is also a dedicated button in the camera when you want to take a selfie, which is of course handy. This phone is using USB Type-C and also supports 18-watt fast charging. Please note this phone does not have a audio port for headphones, but it does come with a USB-C to audio jack, so you can use your headphones via that method if you want to. Running a Geekbench performance test on this phone gave some impressive results, but it did note that the device is rooted, so the points could be inaccurate. But running games on max settings such as PUBG and also Call of Duty Mobile, I didn't have any problems or hiccups, so the device is definitely capable of some good gaming and some strong multitasking also. This is a global version of this device. It's running Android version 9. It does also have full access to the Play Store, which someone said in an older review that the phone didn't have, so that looks like it has been changed, or maybe they had a different version of the phone that I'm not aware of. Despite the two screens, I got a battery life or a screen on time of between 4 to 5 hours, which is okay. It's not amazing. I would have liked more out of a phone with a 3800 mAh battery, which this device has. I did find the system performance overall relatively snappy, and I didn't really notice any hiccups, but there is a problem with the multitasking button that happens far too often, where unless I'm not using it properly, pressing it doesn't seem to do anything half of the time, and then other times it will take you to the multitasking view, so I'm not quite sure what that was all about. There is a feature that I almost forgot to mention, and that is when the device is locked, you can have the rear panel turn into an always on display and play a wallpaper of your choice, but the wallpaper freezes after a short amount of time, so I don't find it that impressive. It does display the time and your battery life and doesn't seem to drain too much battery, but you can switch this off if you want to. Hey guys, right, I'm now doing a video audio test. I have the screen turned, so we're using the screen on the back of the phone, and I want to see how well the microphone picks up my voice and also video quality while I'm just holding the phone, because my hand is moving around a little bit, so we'll see if it removes any of that. It is also raining outside. I'm in my conservatory, so it may be picking that up as well, but we'll see how that turns out in the editing stage. So let me know what you think in the comments, but I think the video from this camera can be quite hit and miss. In the scene of me recording myself where there's not a ton of detail, it seemed to perform okay, but in this shot here at times it almost looks like the camera is out of focus and it can't quite get the detail of the shot correct. But when it comes to macro shots such as this one, it actually performs quite well in some cases. So this camera isn't bad, but it is quite average for the price that you're paying. Thankfully, the photos do come out better, which is often the case in cheaper smartphones. So we'll take a look at those now. When I took these photos off of the smartphone and put them onto my computer, I really was quite surprised of the detail and vibrancy of some of these photos. Now in some of the cases it does seem like they aren't quite true to life and are a little bit too vibrant, and in other cases they seem more realistic. But I'm still very surprised with how well this camera puts out photos. The video wasn't so great, but I think you'll agree the photos from this device are quite impressive, which would make sense since you are only using one camera, so I guess they could focus more on that. One thing is worth mentioning is there is 2 cameras on the back of the device, and it's also stated in the specifications, but I couldn't find anything in the device to change to the secondary camera unless I'm missing something really badly, which I hope I haven't. There didn't seem to be a way to switch to it, so whether this other camera sensor is being used for depth, which could be the case. But anyway, I think I'm going to wrap up the video here. I hope I gave you a decent breakdown of what this phone is capable of. Now, I think the decision will be up to you if you think this is worth buying. My own personal opinion is I don't think this phone has exceptional value for money, but it's certainly not bad. The fact that it has 2 screens while still having a okay camera and a decent battery life, I don't think this is going to go wrong if you want to buy this to have a pretty interesting feature that not a lot of phones have. But there are definitely some better options out there if you don't really need a gimmicky feature like this. I will put a recommendation of one of my current favorite smartphones up in the top of the video, so be sure to check that out. But as always, if you would like to pick up this device, I will put a link down in the description for you. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing for more videos like this one. And of course, I will see you in the next one.